Hey everybody, Baragon of Gamergate here, with another video about the greatest enemies of free expression in the 21st century, the social justice warrior. But what is a social justice warrior, you might ask? Who are they, and why are they such a threat? Well, it's a very complicated matter, but it essentially comes down to one defining trait. They have dyed hair. Alright, thanks for watching everyone! Please donate to my Patreon for more videos just like these. Every week I will round up all the silliest progressive think pieces that I can find and read them out loud to you. I mean, you could probably just read them yourself, but I guarantee you that my intermittent laughing and cursing are totally worth your money. It's like all the wit and insight of a YouTube comment, but in a YouTube video. Alright, you're probably expecting something a little bit more in-depth than that. Just give me a second here and I'll Google it or something. Alright, so after hours of reading Google's results for Social Justice Warrior, it seems about like 99% of the results are just articles explaining how SJWs are self-obsessed, crybaby fascist. Well, that seems pretty accurate to me, but where are all the articles written by SJWs? I mean, I thought I'd find all kinds of results like SJW 2015 Meetup or SJW Retort. I found a few people who actually took this name on ironically, like my concerns were all one big joke to them. I couldn't even find a breakdown of the SJW agenda that wasn't written by a Gamergater. I did a search on the SJW hashtag, but I could only find that hashtag being used by people like Steven Crowder and Adam Baldwin. So where were all of these SJWs? So the first place that people told me to look if I really wanted to get to know the SJW menace were the videos by this guy named Internet Aristocrat, particularly his series called Tumblrisms. So I checked out his YouTube channel and just took one look at this guy and I knew right away, this is someone who knows a thing or two about special snowflakes. Now, Tumblrisms, in case you don't know, are these sort of buzzwords that have a lot of currency in Tumblr, but really are ridiculed pretty much everywhere else on the planet. In fact, a lot of these things I hadn't heard of before, like otherkin, and cisgender, and thin privilege. I watched all of his videos in one evening, and let me tell you, it was very educational. If he hadn't done all of that digging, I wouldn't have been aware that all of these things were being shoved down my throat. This just goes to show what one adult can accomplish if they have ample amounts of free time. So I took after his example, and I started shouting at all of the 14-year-olds I could find. I ran down the halls of my high school, screaming as loudly as I could, "Fuck off, SJWs!" But all people did is stop and look at me as if I were crazy. This left me with only two possible conclusions to draw. One, SJW is a term that has absolutely no currency offline. Or two, that they did not know that they were SJWs. So then it dawned on me, their ideology is so horrifyingly evil that these people are in denial over being what they so obviously are. Therefore, being an SJW is something that must be diagnosed like the cancer that it totally is. So what are the symptoms then? Well, according to Urban Dictionary, which is what I'll need to employ since the feminist academia is keeping it out of the Oxford English Dictionary, a social justice warrior is a pejorative term for an individual who repeatedly and vehemently engages in arguments on social justice on the internet. Well, I do that all the time. I tell them that they're stupid. Often in a shallow or not well thought out way, for the purpose of raising their own personal reputation. A social justice warrior does not necessarily strongly believe in all that they say or even care about the groups that they are fighting on behalf of. They typically repeat points from whoever is the most popular blogger or commenter of the moment, hoping that they will get SJ points and become popular in return. They are very sure to adopt stances that are correct in their social circle. Okay, so that definition is a little vague and it's kind of making me self-conscious. So to extrapolate on this, the Gamergate Wiki has provided us with a proper list of criteria. Now, to test this criteria, let's measure it against someone that I think we can all agree is a social justice warrior, and that is Anita Sarkeesian. Number 1, logical fallacy in argumentation, both formal and informal. Yeah, I think we can say this one without a doubt. I mean, Anita uses informal fallacies all the time. She does so because she's an SJW. Number 2, cowardly censorship of opposing parties. Yeah, this is another one that's right on. Like, I've been blocked by the GG auto blocker, and Anita Sarkeesian won't let me comment on her fucking videos, and I can't even dislike them. How the fuck am I supposed to show these hashtag slacktivist keyboard warriors that I mean business if they don't read my comments and I'm not allowed to tweet at them? It's bullshit. Number 3. Libeling, rumor mongering, and/or harassing of detractors. Oh, this is another definite one. Look at this tweet of hers that I found on Crazy Feminist Quotes' Facebook page. She's basically just defaming all of the Japanese, their animation industry, and fans all over the world of anime. Number 4. Self-victimization. This is another one that should be apparent to, like, everyone. All she ever talks about is being a victim. I mean, fuck, does she not know that there are, like, real victims with real problems out there? Like, between August and September of 2014, literally, like, over a dozen articles came out claiming that gamers were dead. I mean, that's some serious shit. Our feelings are hurt. We have been offended. And both myself and my culture are outraged. Number 5. Self-importance comparable to hero syndrome. Are you kidding? Time magazine made her one of the 100 most influential people of that year. And no one thought so except for herself. If you ask me, you know who should have been on that list? Sargon of Akkad. Now, full disclosure everyone, I am kind of biased. You could say he is sort of a hero to me. Check out the way he absolutely destroys Anita.
There's someone on Twitter pointing out, if there was ever a face that said, I'm going to come along and suck the fun out of everything, it's yours, Anita. Also, seriously, how fast are you aging?
Wasn't that awesome? Okay, now I know it might be hard to tell because he's hiding behind clip art, but trust me, that is a man who is totally within his rights to belittle the looks of a woman. That's just the treatment that you get for having absolutely no credible ideas. People look at Anita Sarkeesian's face and just think, how old is she? When people look at Sargon of Akkad, they don't even think about maturity. Number 6. Over-collectiveness. I actually have no idea what this one means. I'm gonna go check with the Anons on 8chan and get back to you. Number 7. E-begging. I think it's shameful that she accepted so much money for her Feminist Frequency video project, and it is so far off schedule. I mean, just look at how many more she needs to do, and she's still going to be behind schedule for what she promised on her Kickstarter. I mean, hurry the fuck up. I mean, don't get me wrong, these videos are pathetic lies that are bent on destroying video games, but I'm just really pissed off that they cannot come out fast enough.
2 elderly women are at a Catskill Mountain resort, and one of them says, boy, the food at this place is really terrible. The other one says, yeah, I know, and such small portions.
I mean, these response videos basically are paying for my sword collection.
This guy goes to a psychiatrist and says, Doc, my brother's crazy. He thinks he's a chicken. And the doctor says, well, why don't you turn him in? And the guy says, I would, but I need the eggs.
Number 8. Denial towards offers of formal debate. This one really gets under my skin. I mean, if you think about it, she probably owes me some of her time after I've invested so much time talking about her. I think she should sit in on one of my 8-hour live streams. She needs to prove to me that she wasn't behind Target's decision to pull GTA from Australian targets. And then number 9 here, I think we're just going to combine claims of individual oppression and contriving of threateners and/or harassers in order to bolster an elusive victimhood. So yeah, it's pretty common knowledge by this point that Anita Sarkeesian gets a lot of shit on Twitter. She posted like Twitter abuse on her Tumblr. And at first, yeah, I was appalled. But then once I stopped paying attention to words like rape and cunt, I noticed that there was one word that was missing. Gamergate. I was so relieved. And I'm sure Jonathan McIntosh feels pretty stupid for not remembering to include that. He didn't know that if you don't use the hashtag, it doesn't count as Gamergate. Just because Gamergate and these trolls happen to have the same enemy does not mean that we're in league with one another. Gamergate's tweets towards Anita are not harassment, they are criticism. Just because our criticism is correlating with the presence of trolls does not mean that Gamergate's attention is causing those trolls to act. As any scientist will tell you, correlation does not imply causation. There are exceptions to every rule, of course. If a journal wants to update its disclosure policy, but it doesn't necessarily mention Gamergate by name as the reason why it did so, the correlation is fine. We'll take credit for that. If you ask me, she threw out all credibility and all sympathy when she made her propaganda videos. My friend has a 40-minute YouTube video where he deconstructs Hitman and proves that Anita manipulated the game in a contrived way to make it look like you are rewarded for shooting defenseless strippers. I think someone ought to tell the feminist that it's not okay to manipulate the position of an innocent woman solely for the sake of advancing your agenda. It's safe to say that Anita Sarkeesian meets most, if not all, the criteria for being a social justice warrior. But Baragon, you might ask, she's only one person. What makes them a cohesive, single-minded movement? Well, basically, it's guilt by association. Let me explain. There is a lot of crap online that I think is stupid. Let's take a look at this progressive think piece about rape on Game of Thrones. How dare someone have a different perspective on that show than I do? Or take this tweet about a college campus student conference who wanted to ban clapping. I read this, and I already have visions of this taking over the world. Now, on their own, these two things really don't have a whole lot in common with one another. Let's say that I'm talking to my old friend Baragon, and he, to a minor degree, agrees with some of the points made by this article about rape in Game of Thrones. Well, the alarm bells sound, motherfucker, because it turns out Baragon is not my friend. He's been actually an SJW the whole time. Now, the thing that you have to keep in mind with SJWs is this. If they're in for a penny, they're in for a pound. Not only do they have to back up their argument about Game of Thrones, but from here on out, they need to be answerable for anything said online in the name of social justice. That counts all of Tumblr, and even that tweet that I mentioned about the college campus banning clapping. Basically, if he agrees with one thing that I think is stupid, then all other things that I have ever read online that I think are stupid, he has got to justify to me. But it goes even further than that. Of all those stupid things that I've ever read online, I found some people who have defended those ideas in very extreme ways that bother me. Baragon also has to be answerable for all of those internet users. And don't let him turn this around on you either. Just because I only ever criticize feminists and progressives does not mean I'm one of those fucking MRAs.
I have to say, I think these people, these social justice warriors, led first and foremost by gender ideologue feminists, have put themselves in a revenge of the nerd situation.
Or pickup artists.
Gamergate has introduced a split into the video game community, and I believe there is now a demand for video game news, reviews, and opinion for men who don't want to be force-fed this social justice ideology.
I'm a person who can weigh the pros and cons of all ideas and make my own judgments. If only Baragon could do that. Now, not only are the stakes changed, but the language has changed as well. He is no longer in disagreement, he is offended. He is no longer countering your arguments, he is getting salty. He is no longer saying that you're full of shit, he is getting so fucking triggered right now. And finally, he's not walking away to go find something better to do with his time, he is censoring you. Now I know what you might be saying. Baragon, how can you justify this assertion that all people who are in favor of promoting social justice are all secretly in one massive malignant league? That's absurd. Well, to that I would respond, what is more absurd? That they are an agenda-driven ideology? Or that I am cherry-picking isolated examples of progressives and arbitrarily corralling them together? But it doesn't need to be that way. They could be part of Gamergate. In Gamergate, I'm only accountable for myself. I can disassociate from whomever I wish. Take, for example, Davis Orini. Now, I agree with a lot of things that this man has to say on paper, but when it comes to his videos, he just does this bizarre, hyperbolic ranting that makes anti-feminists look like ridiculous blowhards. He sees all the animosity against the SJWs, but rather than do the right thing, like drawing Vivian James fan art, instead, he's capitalizing upon it for his own personal gain, milking Gamergate like it's an outraged cow.
So yes, we are asking that you give what you can. This thing is really starting to scare the social justice warriors. They are desperately pulling at straws now to find anything to criticize about the trailer we released. They're losing in the mainstream media. There's even that documentary #Gamer that they were hoping to make, although it doesn't have much funding, because they are shaking in their boots, and I'm absolutely loving it. So folks, please click the link down below and give what you can.
This gives the devil a black eye. This is taking the very thing that Satan has used on you, the lack of money, and it's taking that very sword that he's used on you, and that's you picking up that sword of your lack of money and saying, devil, I'll pick up the very thing that you used on me, and I'm going to use it on you, you foul, rotten, stinking devil. I'm going to beat you up, you devil. I'm going to cut you to pieces in the name of Jesus. It's picking up the devil's sword, the giant sword, and chopping his head off with the own sword that he's used on you. That's God. Now I'm going to lay my hands out. Go quickly to the phone right now.
Thankfully for Gamergate, he's the only person involved in all of this that's using the movement for his own personal aggrandizement. So let's sum everything up here. SJWs are not simply progressives. An SJW is defined as a progressive that you think is silly. If they're not silly, they're not an SJW. And the definition of a Gamergater is anyone who is cool and successful. For me, the choice is clear. You'd have to be stupid not to be in Gamergate. And of course, if you are stupid, well, you probably never really were in Gamergate, were you? I call this method the path to winning. So, as I hope you've learned throughout the course of this video, social justice warriors are a real threat to be both mocked and taken very seriously, because they are simultaneously a minor fringe movement that no one takes seriously, and also the biggest threat to free speech of this century. Don't ask me how they pulled that off, but I think it's clear that they're setting us up for a dystopia, one without distinction between strength and weakness, talent or mediocrity, a world that suppresses joy and crushes creativity. And one day, when the social justice apocalypse finally comes, at least we can all say, we made fun of them on Reddit. Alright, that's about it for me. Thanks for watching my video, everyone. If you like what you've seen, make sure you like and subscribe and share it with as many people as possible. And also, if you want to donate to my Patreon, that would be wonderful. I mean, you wouldn't think so, because like 75% of this video has just been you staring at a still image, but a lot of work goes into these. I suppose this whole thing might have made more sense as a blog or a podcast, but we all know that shit is for hipsters. And I guarantee you that every dollar you spend will go towards triggering those offendatrons. Get it? Get it? I said triggering. You know, like, don't trigger me, or trigger warning, that word that they think is so important, but we think it's silly. I kind of did this thing where I, like, made light of their concern. You know, triggering, like, that's their word, but I'm appropriating it with a disdainful intent. You know, I'm triggering them. They're getting triggered, everyone. You know, there's just 100 different ways you can take this joke. It's never gonna get old. Oh, triggering. Oh my god, what do these people want from me?